The late afternoon sun was sinking behind the row of shabby brick buildings when the rumble of engines filled the quiet suburban street. It was the kind of sound that made people pull their curtains aside, curiosity mixed with a hint of fear, because only one group in town rode with that unmistakable thunder. The Iron Shields Biker Club. Big men with bigger hearts, though few knew that part. To most locals, they were wild, tattooed riders who gathered at the old warehouse near the highway, where laughter and engines echoed late into the night. But today, the group was returning from a charity ride, helmets hanging on their handlebars, dust covering their boots, jerseys soaked in sweat from hours on the open road. Their leader, a broad-shouldered man everyone called Bear, parked his black Harley at the front of the line. He stretched his arms, letting out a long breath. "All right, boys," he said, pulling off his gloves, "let's get something to drink. I'm dying." The group laughed and began walking toward Rosie's Diner, a cozy little place the bikers had adopted as their unofficial home. Rosie tolerated them, mostly because they paid well, tipped generously, and protected the place from any trouble. The bells on the diner door jingled as the men stepped inside. But the moment they entered, something felt wrong. Bear noticed it instantly. Rosie standing behind the counter nervously wringing her hands, a few customers whispering, and a young girl sitting alone at the far corner booth. Her small, trembling hands were wrapped around a half-empty glass of orange juice. Her dark hair was messy, face streaked with dried tears, and her legs swung nervously above the floor as she kept glancing toward the door like she was expecting a monster to walk in at any second. Bear nudged Diesel, a tall, quiet biker with a scar running down one cheek. "You see her?" Diesel nodded, looks scared out of her mind. Rosie hurried over as the men found their seats. She leaned close to Bear and whispered urgently, "Don't startle the girl. She showed up an hour ago crying, said she's waiting for someone. I asked about her parents, and she froze up." Bear's expression hardened. He'd seen that look before, fear so deep it swallowed a child whole. "Keep an eye on her," he murmured. Minutes passed. The bikers talked quietly, trying not to disturb the tense atmosphere. But the girl kept staring at them, hesitant at first, then almost desperate. Finally, she slid off her seat, clutching her small backpack, and walked toward Bear with trembling steps. "Excuse me," her voice cracked. Are you bikers?" The men paused mid-bite. Diesel set his cup down gently. Bear turned to face her fully and softened his voice. "Yeah, sweetheart, we're bikers. Name's Bear. What's yours?" "Lila," she whispered. "Pretty name." She swallowed hard. Can I ask you something?" Bear nodded. "Anything." Her lips trembled as she spoke. "Can you help me, please?" The diner fell silent. The other bikers looked up, sensing something serious. Bear leaned forward, elbows on the table. "What's going on, Lila?" She looked around nervously, then climbed into the seat beside Bear as if sitting close to him meant she might be safe for a moment. "My stepfather," she choked on the words. "He wants to take me away." Diesel frowned. "Take you where?" She shook her head violently. "I don't know, but it's far. He said if I told anyone, I'd never see my mom again." The men exchanged tense glances. Bear kept his voice calm. "Where's your mom now?" Her eyes filled with tears. "He locked her in the bedroom before I ran." She couldn't stop him. A muscle in Bear's jaw twitched. "Has he hurt you, or your mom?" Lila hesitated, then pulled up the sleeve of her tiny sweater. Bruises, fresh, yellowing, some nearly purple, lined her arm. Gasps escaped around the room. Diesel clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. Bear's voice turned low and lethal. "Who did that to you?" "My stepfather." She looked down. "He said he's taking me tonight. I waited for him to go outside to load the truck, then I ran. I ran as fast as I could." "Smart girl," Bear murmured. She leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know where else to go. Everyone says bikers are scary, but you look brave." She blinked, tears spilling. "Please, don't let him take me." The men sat frozen for a moment, the weight of her words hitting like a punch to the chest. Then Bear stood abruptly, towering over the booth. "Lila," he said gently, "you're safe now. I promise you, nobody's taking you anywhere." She looked up, hope flickering like a candle in a storm. But then the door of the diner slammed open. A tall man with a scruffy beard and bloodshot eyes stormed in, his chest heaving. His shirt was stained with sweat and something darker. He scanned the diner and locked eyes on Lila immediately. "There you are," he growled. She flinched so violently her backpack fell from her hands. Bear stepped in front of her without hesitation, shoulders squared, his massive frame blocking her from view. The man pointed at him. Move. That's my stepdaughter. Bear didn't move an inch. She's not going anywhere with you. The man's nostrils flared. You got no right to get involved, biker. This is family business. Diesel rose too, cracking his knuckles. Bruising a kid ain't family business. The man's eyes darted between the bikers, big, tattooed, furious. He visibly paled but tried to puff his chest. She's lying. She's always lying. She needs discipline. Lila whimpered behind Bear. That sound broke something inside the room. Bear leaned forward, voice dangerously calm. Buddy, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to back out that door before I forget I'm trying to stay out of prison. The man tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. You think you're scaring me. But then the rest of the bikers stood, all of them. Muscle, leather, and rage rolled across the diner like a storm. Bear, Diesel murmured, you want us to escort him out, or you want us to help educate him? The man backed up instinctively, swallowing. But desperation flared in his eyes. She's my stepdaughter. The law says. Bear's fist slammed onto the table so hard the dishes rattled. The law doesn't give you the right to terrorize a child. Rosie, standing behind the counter, dialed her phone. Police are on their way, she said coldly. The man panicked. He lunged forward, grabbing for Lila's arm. But he didn't touch her. Diesel moved faster than anyone thought possible. In one swift motion, he pinned the man's arm behind his back, pushing him face first against the counter. The man screamed in pain. You try to take her again, Diesel said, voice low as thunder, and I'll make sure you never lift a hand to anyone. The man strained and kicked, but Diesel didn't budge. Lila burst into tears, clutching Bear's vest. He crouched down to her level, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. It's okay. You're safe. We're right here. The police arrived minutes later. Rosie explained everything. The bikers stood as silent, immovable witnesses. Lila told the officers what happened, her voice shaking but steady. Bruises were photographed. The stepfather was handcuffed, screaming threats until an officer shoved him into the patrol car. When the car drove away, Lila finally let out a long, broken sob, the kind a child should never have to make. Bear knelt beside her again. Lila, where should you go now? Any family, any place safe. She wiped her eyes. My grandma. She lives 2 towns over. Mom used to take me there before. She paused. Before he moved in, Bear exchanged a look with his men. We'll take you, he said. All of us. Her eyes widened. All of you. Diesel grinned. You'll be the queen of the road today. Lila sniffed. Will my mom be okay? We'll make sure she is, Bear promised. They walked her outside, wrapping her in Bear's leather jacket. The bikers formed a protective circle around her. Cars slowed on the street, staring at the sight, 15 massive bikers shielding a tiny little girl like she was treasure. Bear lifted Lila gently and sat her on the front of his Harley, securing her with careful hands. She smiled for the first time that day, the wind brushing her hair as the engines roared to life. Behind them, neighbors peeked from windows. The same people who avoided the bikers out of fear now watched with awe. Because everyone knew one thing that night, one truth echoing through the town. The bikers didn't just give Lila protection. They gave her something she had lost for a long time. Hope. And they were just getting started.